Hello, everyone. We are in the People of Nature podcast, and our first speaker is Dr. Kalloli Datta. And Dr. Kalloli Datta is a doctorate in forestry with a decade of experience in biodiversity conservation, landscape ecology, and remote sensing (GIS). Her work encompasses afforestation, natural resource management, habitat mapping, data analytics, stakeholder consultations, and community conservation. She is deeply interested in working with tribal communities, particularly forest dependent and underrepresented. Her fascination with community conservation motivated her to pursue another master's degree in anthropology to broader understanding of the diverse intersectional challenges and topics within this domain. Her portfolio includes projects like USAID's Forest Plus 2.0, IUCN's Forest Landscape Restoration Analysis, and KFW's Habitat Conservation Initiatives. At Deloitte's climate change and sustainability team, she managed plantation projects, land acquisition, and played a role in synthesizing nature based solutions, drafting climate policies, and calculating internal carbon pricing. So, we have a very diverse conservation ecologist with us today. So, let's hear from her. So, welcome, Dr. Kalloli Datta, to our platform. How do you feel
Hi,
about?
thank you. Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really looking forward and excited for this conversation to take place.
Thanks, Kaloli, for being here. So, my first question to you, Kaloli, is so far, I think you have worked in various domains, intersecting domains. So, what are your key takeaways so far from working in the field of landscape ecology, conservation ecology?
Right. So I would begin with saying that what I have learned in theory or whatever I have learned before going to field always turns out to be extremely different, very, very different in field. We
Yeah.
study about field and then it turns out to be a very different situation because I believe there are multiple realities and multiple perspectives. That's why
Mhm.
whatever problem we are aiming at, also we would have to look at multiple solutions. So that is one of my key takeaways.
Yeah.
Secondly, I feel community participation is very undervalued in our country. And I have
Mhm.
seen in whatever projects I have worked, it's always so much more helpful with community participation. Things become so much more easier. So that would be one of the things. And finally, which is a very personal observation, I would say that research should never become too personal. I think then, yeah, it just makes you very biased towards your personal outcomes. And I think when we start off as really young and dynamic researchers, we have this, aim of getting our work done. And that makes our mind very one track. So that doesn't help really. I have seen that we are not even open to other perspectives. So while I have worked all these years, I feel that it's sometimes you have to step back, sometimes you have to let go. So that is one of my very big learnings from field.
That's really big coming from you. I think it's I mean it's pretty agreeable that these things happen knowingly, unknowingly. We don't understand what we are doing as a researcher. But yeah, if you look back, I guess you can really make out what went wrong at what place.
Exactly, exactly.
So that's super, Kaloli. So you worked with Deloitte for a while. So how was
Right,
your experience working with a corporate? I mean, it's a big corporate industry. Like Deloitte is like a big name, right? So
right.
how was your working experience over there, as well as any exciting project, if you can mention about that you worked on with Deloitte?
Sure. Sure. So I think working in Deloitte was a very different experience as opposed to what I had done till now. Things suddenly became very serious, and everything was, supposed to look good. So I think I aced myself at making really good presentations, and I did learn a lot of professionalism from that office. So, and another very important thing in Deloitte was the flexibility and the remote work culture. So somehow I just feel that you could avoid all the office politics. You can sit at your own home at comfort and just focus on your deliverables. So that was very helpful in Deloitte. And one of the very important and interesting projects that I worked on was called Haryana Climate Leadership Project. So it
Okay.
was it aimed at arresting stubble burning, which is one of the biggest issues right now with regards to air pollution in Delhi and NCR. So
Yeah.
we devised there were a lot of deep diving and a lot of research, and we figured out why it's happening and how we can control it. We did try for 1 year in a small district called Karnal, and it yielded some very good results. I was mostly concerned with the afforestation part of the project. So I was looking at farm forestry basically, and
Okay.
encouraging farmers, small farmers mostly, if they can, also get benefit from afforestation, like having fruit trees. And we also planned at having a carbon credit project with regards to that. That is still in the pipeline. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So again, I think you have worked again in various diverse fields as such, even
Right.
with tele. And in your CV, you have also mentioned that you worked with some government, non-governmental agencies too. So one
Mhm.
of the prominent project that you have mentioned is the Ganga mission,
Right.
uh, for which you worked with government. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I see in your career, I see a transition going from academia into NGOs to government to corporate. So I think you're touching upon to various sectors, and environment is like a common thing, across.
Yes, yes,
So that's really
definitely.
fantastic. So
I
for our
hope.
speakers, a little bit narrate your story about working with the government and how was your experience.
Okay, working with the government again was pretty different, because this time I was on the other side of the line. It's when
Mhm.
you're a researcher, it's very easy to say, oh, government should do this, and
Yeah.
why is this not happening? And I was there answering parliament questions on the things that I was doing. So it was like turning tables for me, and it was difficult in the beginning to be able to answer everything. And talking of Ganga mission, the engineering part. So I was not concerned with the engineering part, basically the cleaning mechanism part, which is done through the STPs, the sewage treatment plants. And there are
Yeah.
over 100 this STPs all across the 5 Ganga states. That's Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, and West Bengal. So that is actually going pretty much as planned, and that is something that I am happy about. But the non-engineering part that I was concerned with, mostly like plantations and biodiversity conservation and wetland management, needs a lot more spatial planning.
Yeah.
It's definitely, there's a huge gap between what we are saying in these review DPRs and what is actually happening field. So that is one concern, I would say. But overall, it was a very challenging experience, I must say, to be on the other side. Yes.
Yeah. So any incidents do you recall while working there? Like anything specific about the project?
There was one good project which was an overlap of the culture and nature, in which it was called
Oh,
the Ganga
nice.
Mashal Yatra. Yeah. So
Okay.
through that yatra, it started from one state and it went until the end, like throughout the landscape, and it was mostly awareness. So there was a mashal which
Mhm.
was burning
I see.
continuously, and we tried to connect it with all different kind of festivals in that state, and how as much as awareness that can be created through the culture of the place. So that was very interesting and nice.
Yeah, I think so. These kind of projects are like big projects do really need a connect with the communities, which
Exactly.
many a times it's missing. And if this
Mhm.
is something they're doing, then I think this is really great. Well, Kalori, you also mentioned that you have worked with tribal communities,
Mhm.
social welfare, especially the social welfare part of tribal communities.
Right.
So, being an outsider, many a times like we urbanites, when we go
Mhm.
to these areas, I mean, we are like sort of outsiders. So, how was the response from the communities to all these projects?
So I have done tribal welfare work in very different settings. So I'll just give an example. So my first project was during my part of my project was in a research area in Kerala, where I was a researcher. So that was now when I look back, that was a purely outsider's gaze. Like we are trying to see how much the NTFP usage is there within that particular area, and then making it one of the factors of the decline of the forest, which now I look back and think it's not true. So that that as a researcher, then working as part of an NGO which was already there in the landscape, it's an entirely different picture. So
Mm.
you have already been accepted into the community, you've been working there, people know you. So
Okay.
when even if you are someone new, they know the organization, so that
Right.
trust build very different, as opposed to when you're going alone in the field, or as a researcher. So I
Yeah.
think that. And then I have been gone as a consultant, as an entirely
Mhm.
different consultant with the forest department, and that was also very different, because then they
Right.
view you as somebody who's trying to get some benefit out of their land
Correct. Correct.
or
Yeah.
resources. So those were different kind of situations, but mostly I have found them to be very kind and accommodating. It's
Mhm.
never very difficult when you're working in homogeneous tribal communities, one tribe, so their practices,
Yeah.
where it's all coming from. But there have been complicated cases in the Kaziranga landscape, for example, where there are non-homogeneous, communities. There are different tribal people. There are people settled there in different phases of time in history. Then it becomes a
Right.
little difficult to tackle it, and that's how I feel that one conservation management plan doesn't work. It cannot be
Right.
generalized across the landscape. Yeah.
Wow. So that's fantastic. So again, that comes out to be like a very diverse experience, dealing with various tribal communities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you mentioned, I also agree that building trust with the communities is, I think, really important milestone to
Right.
achieve. And many NGOs are doing that, at various places, remote areas. So if they're consistently working, that really relates to the building trust part.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fantastic to know, Kaloli, that you have been working across sectors and across disciplines. So broadly speaking, the conservation sector in India, right? So do you think it pays more attention towards just the wildlife biology, wildlife ecology part, or does it also equally balances the community and social aspect of conservation?
No, I don't think it balances yet. It's still a huge gap. We are still a way behind when it comes to balancing science and social science, which is why
Mhm.
I wanted to do another master's in anthropology, because I thought I have to think from the other perspective too. That is the only way things can be balanced. But things are looking up. There are the social scientists have started doing good work, and but that's the whole issue, right? With wildlife
Yeah,
biology or ecology, certain things you can get your objectives defined and your goals achieved, but when it comes to social science, things take a long time. The goal
yeah.
achievement of the goal it's a longer period, which is why I think the intersection is a little less, and it's taking time for social sciences to be in the core of conservation.
Yeah, I mean, I also see the same. There is still a big gap, and again, community participation is something that we need to really work on together. Not just as a researcher, but also a social scientist.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally believe that there is a big divide in wildlife researchers and conservationists. So
Totally.
there's
I know,
still a
I
big
know what
divide.
you're talking about. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So Kaloli, I mean, your career again traverses across multiple sector. That's what is very fascinating about your career. So, what has been the proudest moment of your career so far?
My proudest moment would be one of my favorite fields that I worked in Arunachal Pradesh. So there was a small
Mhm.
range called Namsing, and we were working there for some time. The base camp was inside grassland, and
Okay.
on the Republic Day, the
Mhm.
forest management, they asked me to host the national flag, the tricolor. That
Oh,
was one great moment for me. It was a very small gathering of like 10 people inside a
okay.
village. Nobody knows, but it really touched my heart, and I was very proud that day.
You're feeling like very patriotic or what?
Yeah, it was like I feel like, I was my little effort is being recognized. I'm doing
Yeah.
something for my country, for my landscape. Yes,
Yeah, I think that's really great to know that such small things make a big difference in your
it does.
career.
Yeah, it pushes you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, taking from there, what kind of work are you planning in conservation in like future, in near future?
Right now, I am concentrating on the intersectional domains of conservation, forestry, landscape ecology with the social science sectors like, gender and land and human rights and governance. So, since I said that I'm doing another master's, I am trying to look at the changing gender roles in different matrilineal societies. So, there are matrilineal societies in India still, in the Meghalaya, and some past societies exist in Kerala. So I'm trying to look at from a socioeconomic viewpoint, like how they have changed with collection, with respect to collection of NTFPs or fishing and activities like that. So yeah, I do want to. I see myself as balancing both the parts that I've studied till now, forestry and anthropology, and that's the plan.
I see. I see. So you're trying to dwell, deeper into this intersectional domains in
Yes, yes,
conservation.
yes.
So, Kaloli, being a female conservationist, what are the challenges, hurdles, have you faced in your career so far?
Yes, I have faced, but sadly, those are not the physical hurdles. Those are not having
Mhm.
a bathroom or place to
Okay.
change, or that is not the major hurdle. I think the major hurdle is still the blatant sexism that and
Mhm.
the power dynamics that we come across. And
Yeah.
most of the time, especially because we are working in remote areas, and a woman is not taken seriously. You
Mhm.
are not looked up to as a leader. And I've been told by you know someone senior in my team, like, we cannot make you a manager because nobody's going to listen to you.
Oh.
Yeah. I have not experienced a pay gap because
Mhm.
that I have not experienced yet. And
Right.
I have to say that in the corporate world, this, gender politics is
Mhm.
not that, prevalent. It's general politics. It's same for
Right.
everyone. There is no
Okay.
gender. There's no gender gap or a gap in pay or any
Right.
other. But specifically as a woman, I have not faced in the corporate sector, but in
Right.
field and in NGOs, yes, a lot.
Mhm. Okay. So, I mean, that's really shocking. I never thought that these kind of hurdles, challenges,
Hmm.
would someone would face really. And I mean, doubting on leadership qualities, I think that's like really extreme.
Yeah, like you would think, when people ask, oh, how do you manage? No water, no sanitary, means and all. But those things you can always overcome because you're focusing on
Yeah.
work. But when you're not when people are not letting you work in peace, that is more disturbing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I understand. So, what is your message to all these young budding conservationists who want to dive deeper into conservation field, and they often have this question about safety and security.
Mhm.
So what do you suggest? What do you advise?
I think I have never faced any safety or security concerns inside a jungle.
Mm-hmm.
Most never, 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 because it's always we're mostly not working alone. We're working in teams, and you have to trust the forest department. You have to trust your team members. But yeah, sudden unfortunate things might happen, but then you'll have to deal with it. That's that part. But when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to other security reasons,
Mm-hmm.
that it will come only through learning. So you can never
Right.
be entirely prepared. Things are always different case to case, from place to place. So yeah, for young budding researchers, it's very important for you to be patient. Don't
Mm-hmm.
jump into conclusions. We all do that when we start.
Yeah.
But that's from my learnings. I would always say that it's very important to look at all the perspectives that exist and then come out with a solution, because in the real
Right.
world, nothing is black and white. It's all gray. So
Right.
yes, that would be it.
No, that's fantastic. So we are coming to the end of this podcast. We are almost, hitting our time. So one
Right.
last question for you, Kalori. And
Yes.
once again, I would like to thank you for being on this stage. And I think this podcast will really inspire a lot of people to come on board and discuss today's conservation stories with us.
Thank you so
So
much.
my last question to you is, you must have been inspired by, or you must be following some role model of yours in conservation. So is there a role model, and if yes, then who he or she is?
Yeah, so I usually like to make role models from, somebody near me, people I look at or I have seen growing up, I have seen them. But of course, topmost would be Dr. Jane Goodall because of her,
Mhm.
amazing
Yeah.
dedication to primatology and the kindness that she shows. But nearer home, I would say Dr. Purnima Devi Burman, who is a
Right.
wildlife biologist. You must be knowing her, and
Yeah.
she's a commendable work in species management with community management. And
Yeah.
then there is Dr. Sonali Ghosh, who is currently the field director of Kaziranga National Park. She's an IFS officer, and it's a brilliant example of how, administration can actually make a change. She's worked across different landscapes. She's made history in many places. So she and both the women, I know them personally, so they are my role
Great.
models.
Wow, that's fantastic. Many people, tell you about celebrities, but here we have local heroes. I think
Yes,
mentioning them is it's really a
definitely,
great achievement in itself.
definitely.
So thanks a lot, Kaloli, for being with us. And I think
Thank you so much,
this
Pankaj. It
was a
was
fantastic
topping,
talk.
really great talking to you,
I
talking
really
to
enjoyed talking to you.
same here, same
And
here.
let's connect again, maybe sometime later, and discuss further. So thanks
Sure.
again, Kaloli.
Thank you.